pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Eastwood, like you've never seen him before. Great music and songs by Eddie Rabbitt, Charlie Rich, Mel Tillis, and Sandra Locke. Adventure and fun all over the place. Clint Eastwood will turn you rated PG. Now playing everywhere.
The pod bay doors are open. Welcome once again. I'm your host, Jerry Dean Roberts of ArmchairCinema.com and ArmchairOscars.com. Seated here, as always, with a man that I'm convinced will not be farting, spitting, or picking his ass. The critic, dare I say legend, for TalkMovieToMe.com, Mr. Doug Heller. How the heck are you today, sir?
How many times have I told you I don't want him drinking beer except Saturdays? It's the only thing I could find.
The only quote that you could find.
That wasn't, I mean, otherwise I would have had to do like a whole bit because
Yeah.
it takes forever to get to an actual line and it needs context most of the time.
This whole movie is nothing but bits.
Yeah.
Welcome
That
to
don't work.
week 2 of Turkey Month, a week of nothing but bad movies. And this week we got a doozy. It's
This
not
is,
like last week, but because this
no.
one is baffling because it's made by talented people. This is Clint Eastwood's box office hit, believe it or not. Every Which Way But Loose.
Yeah.
The 4th highest grossing movie of 1978, Every Which Way But Loose. Which has its admirers, but whenever people tell me that they admire it so much, I'm always like, have you seen it lately? Really, have you seen it lately? Because this movie is a mess.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I
It's
guess...
sort of about a lot of things, but not really about anything.
Right. Well, then when you look at the writer's writing filmography, it involves Every Which Way But Loose.
Mhm.
That's his first film. Any Which Way You Can, Characters.
Which is the sequel. Well, yeah. It's just
And a
sequel.
movie from the following year, 1981, called Going Ape. So apparently he only knew how to write for orangutans.
Yeah, and that one had Tony Danza.
Yeah. Yeah, so, oof.
But this is Clint Eastwood, and I want to say this because we're going to say a lot of bad stuff about this movie. I want to say I am a Clint Eastwood fan. I always have been. There's a reason he's been consistently been a movie star for the last nearly 60 years.
He does have a lot of good moments. He has a lot of less than good moments as
He
well.
does. He does. I think he's a good director.
I think he's a good director. I again think that his reputation gets him a lot farther as a director of late than it maybe should.
Yeah. Particularly lately.
Ever since Mystic River or Changeling, things have kind of just gotten... He's either doing a hero movie or Don't Look at Me Like a Macho Guy kind
Ever
of a
since The Mule, I think it's been... Well, he has a reputation for directing very fast. If he thinks he's got it, he won't do a second take.
Right.
And he's known for filming his actors while they're getting ready for the role, and if he likes what he sees, if he likes what he sees, he'll keep it.
Right.
And he doesn't do. He's unlike Kubrick.
He's not Kubrick.
Yeah, he's not Kubrick. And he does, 1 or 2 takes, and he's like, okay, well, got it. And that's why his movies come out so quickly. He has directed some brilliant stuff.
Yes.
$1 Million Baby was brilliant. I'm fat. It's his list of credits is too long to really get into. I love his westerns. I love most of the stuff he does. I mean, I can look down. I can find an equal measure. As much stuff as I admire, as much as it's bad. I mean.
Oh yeah.
And around this time,
all of the Dirty Harry sequels.
Oh yeah. Yeah. around this time, he was kind of at the top of his game too.
Mm-hmm.
Because after this he directed a movie that I really like called Bronco Billy, which he played
I
kind of
haven't seen that one.
He played kind of a wild. Oh, was it Wild Bill? Kind of the Wild Western show, the traveling show kind of thing. And it's so this kind of drops in at a very interesting point. And when you know where this movie came from, it kind of makes sense why he got involved in it. Because this script...
Explain, because it made no sense to me.
This script was handed to him by somebody with the intent that he would hand it off to Burt Reynolds.
Ah.
And this came a year after Smokey and the Bandit. So this kind of rural, anti-authority kind of action comedy was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And also the cowboy culture, country and western thing was happening. And, which would be filtered into something like Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah. 1970s trucking,
right.
There's a little bit of trucking in here.
That, just that 70s anti-authority kind of thing, But I don't know. I want to go into the multiverse and see what this would have looked like as a Burt Reynolds movie. I have every reason to think it would have been a Hal Needham movie, and it actually would have been worse. But
is that possible?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, it is. Because if you try to imagine Burt Reynolds in this role, I think it would be worse.
True.
But, this was made by Eastwood, and Eastwood works with the same people, and has worked with the same people for decades.
Because, I mean, he's a producer on basically everything he's been in since he became a producer.
Right.
Like, ever since he started directing and producing in, 71 with Play Misty for Me, Malpaso has been a co-producer on every project he's ever on.
Right. Well, that's his production company.
No, I know.
And he's still using them.
Mm-hmm.
He's still living, by the way, as of this recording. And I mean, if you think about it,
old man, though.
And if you've seen Cry Macho, you could tell. There's a scene where he sits down at a dinner table, and he sits down very, very, very slowly.
Really?
And it's not an actor's choice. But if you look at his list of credits, one of them is Joel Cox, who's his editor. He won an Oscar for Unforgiven. Joel Cox started with him in The Enforcer. And the last film that he worked on with Eastwood was Cry Macho. So
Yeah. Joel Cox has been with him for a very, very long time. Clint Eastwood's what, like 91?
He's 91 years old, yes.
Yeah. Wow. And I would even wager that he's probably got a couple of movies in the
can, yeah.
in the wings waiting to go, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's always been... His presence on screen, I think, gets him a lot further. He's very charming.
Mm-hmm.
In his westerns, he kind of established the man with no name kind of thing, and that presence is what made... I think that's what made him a star. And he has this thing, especially in the Dirty Harry movies that I love, is when the whole movie will stop just so he could talk for 5 minutes. If you watch Sudden Impact and you watch the Go Ahead Make My Day scene, it's just him talking for 5 minutes. Just
It is. It takes forever.
Yeah.
But
I love his monologues are so funny and so charming. I love that stuff. He doesn't do that here.
He does none of that here.
Okay, I want to mention this. Okay, I saw this as a kid a couple of times,
Okay.
and I had not seen it in years. You'd never seen this.
I'd never seen it. No.
So I'm going to hand it over to you. You've got to tell me what it is you thought of this movie.
Well, you know, a lot of times when we do these things, I always watch them twice, just to make sure I get everything. And
it seems like you saw this 5 times.
Yeah, I didn't. I feel like I watched it 5 times, but I've only seen it twice. The first time felt like it lasted about 6 hours, though. So
it does,
and
especially the last 30 minutes.
The thing meanders more than a lazy river. It's just, I mean, this is the slow Sunday drive from the 50s of movies. It takes forever to get where it's going, and it never really gets where it wanted to go.
Yeah.
At all, in any way, shape, or form. Every single plot line that's brought up is abandoned without resolution. Every one of them.
Even into the credits.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's nothing here. Every new scene is the start of a new storyline, almost.
And there's like 6 of them.
There are, and I would love to say that like there's a B story and stuff. There's not even an A story. There's not even a story.
You can't honestly sit there and tell somebody what this movie's about. You can't. You cannot tell. You cannot solidly tell somebody what this movie's about.
Because, I mean, first you want to say, well, okay, he's a bare-knuckle boxer, and he has an orangutan that's like his best friend, along with this guy who lives with his mother, and he calls mother? I don't know. I don't get that whole...
The guy who may be his brother, his cousin, or possibly both.
Right.
They have apparently the same mother, but different names. Different last names.
Right, unless he just calls her Ma. I don't know.
I have no idea.
That's possible. He could be so close with Orville that he lives there and he calls her Ma. I got the impression that, yes, perhaps they're half-brothers, but they're described as friends.
And they never really explain that.
No, they never really explain much of anything here. The only thing that they take the time to explain, which I actually kind of thank them for, is how on earth Philo got Clyde. Now, I want to say his name again. His name is Philo Beddoe. I'm going to say that one more time. Philo Beddoe. Philo Beddoe. What? The only other Philo I've ever heard of is the fictional detective Philo Vance.
Yeah. Philo Beddoe.
What name is that? Where does that come from? What?
Well, what about Orville Boggs? Orville Boggs sounds like a Disney villain.
Orville Boggs at least sounds like he runs a wrecking company in Mississippi. Like that. Yeah. Or Arkansas. Actually, Arkansas, I think, would be the Boggs. Southern Mississippi, maybe. You know, that name fits. Especially the guy playing him makes him into an Orville Boggs. But
he has the eyes of a serial killer. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He's played by Jeffrey Lewis, who is the late Jeffrey Lewis, who is the father of Juliette Lewis.
Oh. Okay, I see that now.
But there are scenes where he's sitting there and it's kind of focused on his face, and I mean his eyes are just creepy. Mm-hmm. Well,
can you imagine him in a magic-like situation?
Oh God. Well, let's get down to Eastwood's role. Eastwood plays an untethered lunatic in this movie.
Basically, yes.
Because...
Who should have been arrested about 16 times throughout this thing.
Assaults
police officers multiple times.
Yeah.
Steals trucks.
But then the movie is kind of about a lot of stuff, but never really about anything. It's kind of about him being a bare knuckle pit fighter. It's kind of about his friendship with this ape. It's kind of about his friendship with Orville. It's kind of about his a romance with Sandra Locke. It's kind of about how he gets scanned by her. It's kind of about how he pisses people off who want to kill him. It's kind of about, but it's never really solidly about any of these things.
No, there's no. I think they kept it so loose, I think, to make the comedy a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But they made it so loose that they didn't have anything. Instead of every which way but loose, it was just loose.
Okay, let me. I got something here for you. There's a wonderful site called Every 70s Movie. And I think this paragraph, I'm going to read this to you. This is kind of my opinion on this. He writes, every which way but loose drags on forever and can't maintain a consistent tone, since some of the fighting bits are way too intense for lightweight escapist fare. However, the really confusing thing is that Every Which Way But Loose doesn't feel like a bad movie. With several Eastwood regulars among the crew, and more likely than not Eastwood looking over nominal director James Fargo's shoulder, the picture has a degree of technical spit and polish its idiotic script simply doesn't deserve.
Yeah.
It's a better looking movie than it is an actual movie.
Oh, yeah.
But the character that he plays is, I'm guessing, works as a truck driver.
He seems to.
But he's only a truck driver at the very beginning.
Yeah, he doesn't ever do anything else after that. He just drives around.
And by the way, I love the beginning of this movie because it's 8 minutes of him getting off work.
Pretty much, yeah.
Of which he drives into the depot, goes into the office, sexually harasses 2 women, gets in his truck, goes to the bar, gets into a fight, which I'll get to in a second, and then drives home and is then attacked by Clyde.
Yes, in a very... I don't like those shots. The POV shots in this are awful.
It's almost like Ken Russell took over for a minute. You know, it's weird. It is. It's like there are 2 of those. There's one at the beginning, one at the end.
I'd like to say that would have made it better, but I don't know.
But honestly, this whole movie is Clint Eastwood can't let anything go, and at the beginning of the movie, he walks into a bar and he has a drink. He has a beer, and then there's a guy down the bar named Big Al, who the other guy that he's talking to, this is strange. The other guy
trying to get him to go to a whorehouse.
Yeah, and they're talking, and you get the sense they don't really know each other that well.
Yeah.
And Big Al has this look on his face like he's just received some bad news that we don't ever know about.
Right.
And he gets mad at Eastwood, who keeps taking peanuts out of the peanut bowl.
Right. Well, on his way out, he takes some in his handful.
No, he takes some while he's sitting there, and then he takes some more while he's going out.
It's the ones that he took when he was going out that apparently caused the problem.
Yeah. And Eastwood kind of gets in a fight with him, and I mean, knocks the shit out of this guy.
Yeah, I mean, all that happens is he's like, "Oh, are you taking those back? Are you a squirrel taking them back to your tree?" And he's just making fun of him for taking peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants them back, so where is this getting him?
Yeah. Because people in this movie cannot let anything go.
and then he just punches him in the face repeatedly.
He destroys this man.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, he's picking on you a little bit. So,
Well, he started a fight.
I mean,
Because
but it feels like Philo has just the thinnest skin imaginable
he does through the whole movie.
through the whole movie. I mean, every single thing he does as an act of revenge is all petty and juvenile.
Well, I got one coming up. But
The teeth.
well, the one thread in this movie that I actually was kind of interested in is what he does for a living, because at the beginning he's a truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
But then we realize he really makes his money as a bare knuckle pit fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Of which I was really kind of shocked at the network of bare knuckle pit fights that were available in this movie.
Right? How easy it was to just find people to pummel?
And how easy it is to find people who do this for a living. You know, there's a lot of union guys.
Or at least do it, yeah, or at least do it as a supplemental income.
Yeah.
Fairly regularly.
But it's usually in a very union-like setting. You know, there was one in a lumber yard, there's one in a meat packing plant, you know, there's one in, it's usually a bunch of those guys. But I was just shocked because at one point he says to Orville, "Can you get a line on a fight because we're getting low on cash?"
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, they live in suburban Los Angeles, and I'm thinking,
yeah,
okay,
the San Fernando Valley, yeah.
But the network that he's able to get into is just baffling.
I don't get that particularly either. Like I assume that if you run in those circles, it's easier to find that stuff. It's the same. It's the same as, you know, if you're, you know, if you seek out drugs, you'll find them. If you seek out, you know, anything, you'll find
Prostitution.
it. Prostitution, gambling.
Yeah.
You know, a crew for a theft. You know,
which is
it's
exactly what this
there.
is. Which is exactly what this is, because it's gambling.
Right. So it's difficult to comprehend on a general level, but if that's where they are, they know who to talk to, they know how to find. Like Orville probably has done this so many times that he just knows where to go and to find people who would be into this.
The kind of people, to talk to network.
Right. So, but just how is he so well known yet completely unknown?
Yeah, because when he gets in the ring...
Where does this fall?
Because when he gets in the ring, he beats the living shit out of these guys.
Oh yeah. I mean,
that first guy
he barely
that he fights,
suffers a scratch.
That first guy that he fights in the lumber yard, he just takes this guy apart.
Oh, you mean after he does the Mr. Rogers shoe change?
Yeah, he changes his shoes. I don't get it.
He takes off his boot. He starts lacing up a sneaker. I'm like, he's doing this Mr. Rogers stuff. He's doing it one shoe at a time, and he's doing it very deliberate. It looked like he was just going to start to, "Won't you be my neighbor?" I would have paid money for that to happen, though, too.
Yeah.
Personally. But,
and you know how you know that Eastwood is in control of this whole production? He doesn't ever get hit. You know?
He does. But
I mean, that first fight, he never gets hit.
Right. But then he starts to take hits because he knows he
starts getting distracted by whatever Sandra Locke is doing to him.
Well, in the second one, he decides he's going to quit because he likes the pain, and that he figures that he's been in it for too long. So because he's enjoying getting hurt, so he wants to leave it because that's like the sign that you're about to just like get too committed to it and just have this be, you know, what
and
you are.
The guy that he hits I was surprised that there's there's a surprising lack of blood in these things. But I was just surprised because, I mean, if you hit a guy that many times in the face, he's going to bleed, and they never bleed. And
A little bit. He gets a couple of trickles here and there.
well, first of all, the fights in this movie are brutal.
Yeah, they
And
are.
as the guy said in that article, it's like the fights are just way too intense for this little, basically a light comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's weird. It's like, but that of all the plots that are introduced in this movie, that's the one I was interested in. Is his career as a bare knuckle pit fighter?
Right.
But he goes to, and by the way, this is a pub crawl of Los Angeles honky tonks. Because I was, this is such a scummy little. Ugh.
Yeah.
He goes to a honky tonk with Orville. He goes to several places with Orville and Clyde.
Yeah, Clyde's like allowed in all these places. Now, when they're in LA, I get because he's a regular at all these places.
Right.
And they know him and they don't want to get punched in the face. But
or as it happens in this movie, they don't want to get asked outside.
right. And it like they never go to any lengths to masquerade him. There's none of that. In the second one there is at a motel, they put Clyde in a dress and a hat and make it look like he's a girl because it says no pets.
Yeah, I don't remember the second one.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. Avoid it any which way you can.
Yes. But I'm king.
Ugh. And but yeah, there's just this casual.
It's just generally accepted that he has Clyde with him.
Right.
Waitresses, bouncers, managers, it's just generally accepted. He takes him to a strip club.
Yeah.
There has to be a moment at which the bouncer's like, wait a minute, okay, hold it.
Yeah.
You know?
And it is the most boring strip club imaginable.
And Clyde is watching the stripper.
Yeah, well, a lot of things Clyde does is unsaid.
Clyde seems to exist. By the way, Clyde is adorable.
Oh, yeah.
Clyde is adorable.
Clyde's the best part of the movie. Except for the end. The end was great. Not the ending. I mean the actual, when it fades to black and it's the end. That's my favorite part of the movie.
Well, Clyde just seems to exist in this sort of weird, uncanny valley. Because, first of all, he's drinking beer and eating Oreos. Now, if you know about orangutans, he'd be dead in an hour. Okay? I mean, orangutans have a very specific diet. It can't be drinking beer and eating Oreos. It would kill them. But somehow, in this movie, he's able to just... And I love... by the way, I love the line, I only let him drink on Saturday nights.
Yeah.
Which means he has a schedule wherein he allows this ape to drink beer.
Mm-hmm. And that line is after Clyde very casually attempts to murder Orville by dropping a truck on him.
Right. And then this is played as a joke.
Yeah, because, funny. What? He knocks the block off and he's holding it. And if he lets it go, Orville's dead.
Yeah. And I would also mention...
And then he's like, oh, nice Clyde, nice Clyde. I don't know why he didn't just get out from under it when he saw things were going awry.
Right.
But, because he had space to do that.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, the Uncanny Valley. This ape is doing laundry.
Yeah.
He picks a song on the jukebox.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing things that, again, it's very weird. He's not actually doing things that a real orangutan would do. And Clint Eastwood confides in this ape.
Yeah.
There's a scene late in the movie when Sandra Locke has broken his heart.
I ain't like
Eastwood, not
Orville.
Clyde.
Takes me some time to get to know a girl.
He's confiding in this ape.
Yeah, it's this heart to heart. And Clyde plays along. He pats him on the back.
They have a loving montage where they go out on the town to a Charlie Rich love song, wherein they go to different bars and to a strip club.
Which at the end of Philo seems to be. I think they wanted us to believe that he was drunk out of his mind, but he really didn't play that.
Right.
He came back like unreasonable. He's like, it just ain't fair. Get up, come on, it just ain't right. What isn't? You know, you've got somebody and I've almost got somebody and, well, it just ain't right. What's not right? He like won't say it.
It's that friend you have. It's that friend you have when you're dating somebody and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to feel lonely and they're irritating the crap out of you.
and so he says, you know, we gotta go get Clyde something. Orville's response is not, you want to go out and get Clyde laid. It's, how are we going to get Clyde laid at this hour? As if this has happened before, and earlier in the evening it wouldn't have been a problem.
And it would have been okay during the day.
But at 2 o'clock in the morning, things get difficult. They break into a zoo. Santa Fe Zoo, maybe.
Yeah.
Where Orville goes in, they find the orangutan habitat. He finds a girl, and presumably he gets some. Then they get him out, and they leave. At no point does any security guard come up. There's no cameras. There's nothing.
Because in a movie like this, what would have happened is the security guard would have come up, and either Eastwood would have beaten the crap out of him, or they would have paid him off.
Right, or he would have hidden.
Yeah.
While Clyde was going at it, and then left and maybe been seen when they were leaving, and they're like, "Oh, we got to get out of here! Run!" And you know, but
yeah, I just say I want to say that I do appreciate that they explain where Clyde came from.
That's the only thing I like about this, is that he came over
from Sumatra on a breeding program. Found out that the girl they had set up, the female that they had set up, was already taken. Had already been impregnated. Clyde got mean, and so he became unmanageable, and they sold him to a desert roadside zoo. Eastwood found him, couldn't stand him being in a cage like that, and he said he fought.
He bet his truck and
4
two dirt bikes.
2 dirt bikes.
4 dirt bikes, yeah.
No, 2 dirt bikes, and he fought 4 guys all at the same time.
And he fought 4 guys, and I love it. She's like, "Oh, after the first couple, don't you think they'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to get in on this?" He goes, No, I fought them at the same time.
You know what? I want to see that movie.
I know.
That's the movie I want to see.
That's what if you want to get like, yeah, have that be, and then have him show the budding relationship between him and Clyde, and not this take it as rote that everybody knows he has it and it's not that big of a it's not a surprise to most people there, and it's just Clyde.
I actually
And
think it's actually kind of funny that everybody just takes it as,
yeah, it's like his dog.
he's just
Or his
in
kid
restaurants
brother.
with people. He's just in restaurants. What I want to know is when he goes out of town, does he have to go into the restaurant and tell the waitress, "Look, I have an orangutan with me." Okay, the word orangutan should be a red flag.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm an untethered lunatic, so if anybody says anything that I don't like, I'm gonna beat the living shit out of them.
Right. Right. It's like I mean, it's just
If he is
instantaneous. Yeah, I mean, knowing him must be like walking on broken glass. Like, how on earth does Orville get through a day without getting punched in the face?
Well, the other thing is they go into this honky tonk where apparently it's doing well enough to afford Mel Tillis as a headliner.
Mm-hmm.
But they meet these two girls, and Clint Eastwood sits down and starts talking to this girl. And he's not being disgusting. He's just talking to her. He says, "You mind if I have a seat?"
She's kind of a bitch.
She's really being condescending.
Yeah.
And he says something about, what do you do? And she says, "I'm a student, and I'm writing a paper on the country western aesthetic."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Well, what is the country western aesthetic?" And she says, "It's somewhere between moronic and dull normal."
Yeah.
She gets up to go to the ladies' room, and he signals to Orville.
He says, "Orville," and he puts out his hand. Orville digs in his pocket and pulls out the lower set of dentures. Now, why he has these in his pocket, and why this is something that he knew exactly what Philo wanted.
Yeah, I got the sense this wasn't the first time they've done this.
It couldn't have been, because Philo, or
he just
Orville.
kind of hand signals.
No, he says Orville, but he puts his hand back, and you see Orville behind him fishing around in his shirt pocket. It's not even in his pocket. It's in his shirt pocket, like he had it ready, like
he takes
in a holster,
these things,
ready to
and
go.
by the way, she is eating New England clam chowder in a honky tonk.
Why? Earth.
I wouldn't even touch the peanuts in a place like this.
There are things that you just don't do. You don't get sushi at a strip club, and you don't get clam chowder at a dirty honky tonk. You get a burger and fries or something. You don't clam chowder? Why is that even on the menu?
Well, he takes the dentures and he puts them in the clam chowder. And she comes back and she's being really condescending.
Oh yeah, she's being quite terrible. I mean, I can't say that I was upset that something happened to her because of her attitude, but this makes no sense.
I was still confused about the whole this has happened before kind of thing, because she pulls it up and she gets disgusted and she runs out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is a prank that goes on, and I was just like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then he meets Sandra Locke, who is so flirtatious with him and so friendly and so sexually available with him that a red flag should have gone up in his mind that something was up. Because she
Right.
is way too open with him.
And then you find out that she's open with every
Yeah, she does this
person
all
with
the
a
time.
penis. Yeah, like
Yeah.
any swinging dick, she'll go home with. Like, and no judgment. If that's the way you want to live your life that way.
Fine. Hey,
Not
you do you.
slut shaming, not nothing. Just if that's
If
how
you're
she
sex
wanted to go. But
positive, fine.
she was
That's
absolutely undiscerning, though. Like, I don't have a problem with what she was doing. I have a problem with who she was doing it with.
well. What I love is when, as open as she is, and she's open to everything he says. He looks shocked. The look on his
Yeah.
face, which is
Because he's like, it's pretty smoky in here. Do you want to get out of here? And she goes, yes. He starts looking around like, wait a minute, did anybody else see this? Like, is this really happening? This never works out for this well, for this quickly for me.
usually there's some kind of word struggle. There are some borders that are put up. There are lines drawn. There are no lines drawn in this conversation.
No.
It's let's go out to my truck, you know.
Yeah.
But first of all, let's talk about Sandra Locke. I have never in my life met anybody who can actually say that they liked Sandra Locke. Ever.
I mean,
Well, she's a terrible actress.
yeah, I mean, what has she done that was like, oh, she was actually in Bronco Billy. Apparently, Clint Eastwood liked her.
Oh, she did. They did 8 films together. They were together romantically for 14 years.
Oh, well, that would be why.
She started out in her early 20s. She got an Oscar nomination for The Heart is a Lonely Hunter for Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, that's a really good movie.
And she lost to Ruth Gordon.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes. Who won for Rosemary's Baby?
Right. She was with him for 14 years, and she was in 8 films. And there was a point at which the studio executives finally said, you know, you really probably should stop hiring her. She was never married to him. Because she married somebody early on in her life he was in the closet. And she was his beard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that she would not wreck his career, this man's career, she stayed married to him for the rest of her life. So, but that's probably why she never married Eastwood.
Right.
But she's a bad actress.
Very.
And most of her filmography, and the only reason she was ever able to direct anything was because of him.
Oh, hey, she's from around your neck of the woods, too.
She is. But she's one of those people that everybody's just like, I do not like Sandra Locke.
Well, look at her filmography as an actress.
Mm-hmm.
On IMDb, she is listed as having 30 roles total in her career.
And the ones with the most notoriety are the ones she did with him.
Well, what I was going to say is, look at the gap in her work history. She's working pretty steadily from 1968 to 1986.
Mm-hmm.
After Rat Boy,
which she directed,
she wasn't in anything else until 2000. It was 14 years. She did 2 movies, and then it was another 17 years before she was in another one, and then she died the next year.
Right. They broke up, and her career crumbled.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I do like having... Beverly Deangelo is all right in this.
Beverly Deangelo should have been in this role.
Yeah. Yes.
But when he meets Sandra Locke in this honky tonk, she moves way too fast. They're in his truck, and he's telling her about how he met Clyde.
Right.
She's telling him, red flag, that she needs $7,000 to open her own honky tonk in Denver.
Right, and she is with a guy that's helping her get it, but she doesn't like him. Basically, you find out later, she's basically a hustler trying to make it as a singer.
And how long does it take him to figure this out?
She has to flat out tell him after he meets her with a John in Denver.
He is in denial. He is in denial to the point that he goes to see her, and she has up and left. And he follows her across a time zone to find her because he's convinced that she's been kidnapped by the boyfriend. Never thinking once, wow, this went awfully fast, and I gave her some money. Maybe she's scamming me. It never drops on him.
The day after I gave her $7,000, or however much he made from selling the bikes, which we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll get to that. $7,000 he gives to her, and the next day she is gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he convinces Orville that she must have been kidnapped by the boyfriend.
Right.
And then
I guess.
And then they get in the truck with Clyde, and they decide to drive to Denver to find her.
Yeah. Because of course. Because that's what you do. You just pick up and leave.
Yeah.
Orville runs his own business.
Mm-hmm.
Philo, who knows what Philo does? Philo punches.
He's a truck
people.
driver, and he's a bare knuckle pit fighter. But he only does the truck driving thing at the very beginning of the movie.
That's why I'm thinking he might have been a pickup. He might just pick up odd jobs in between bare knuckle fighting.
Well, at one point, he is accosted by two guys on motorcycles.
Yeah.
Who are, like anybody else, curious about why a guy is running around in a pickup truck with an orangutan. You don't see that all the time.
No, you don't.
Their reaction is not their initial reaction is not unreasonable. It's like, hey, look at it.
Yeah, okay. Surprise is fine, but then they go straight into mocking.
Right.
I don't understand the mindset of I'm going to be an asshole to everybody I meet right up front.
Right. It's the mocking that just kind of kills it because.
And then he threw the cigar at him.
These are the kind of shitty guys who they don't smoke cigars; they smoke cigar butts.
Right.
But at one point, the guy just he throws a cigar and it bounces off of Clyde's head. Clint Eastwood, for the next 5 minutes, sets out to murder these two guys.
He is chasing them in his truck, going through
across highways and across a parking lot,
driving range, and across all kinds of things.
Well, here's what I don't
disobeying every traffic law imaginable, and causing property damage to people who were not even involved in this. Like when the idiots decide, hey, let's take our motorcycles through this car wash.
Through a
he won't find us here.
Functioning car wash, and one of them says, "We can hide in here."
Right, and for some reason has no concept of the fact that they're going to get shit sprayed on them because it's for cars. But then a red station wagon gets in behind him, and then Philo gets in. He sees them.
And he pushes the station wagon
He
out.
rams the station wagon out so that he can go around. Like, that person now has a hit and run. Okay? So, then, they eventually abandon the bikes.
Mm-hmm.
He literally steals a street sweeping truck with Clyde, chases them down, gets out of it. Clyde drives it into a fruit packing area, like it was a truck unloading zone. So there's this private company that lost probably hundreds of dollars in produce. The street sweeper machine, which they literally dragged the guy out of. How is he not arrested?
How is he not arrested multiple times in this movie?
How is this?
Because
And you get the idea that this is how he always behaves. How is he not just in jail always?
He is an untethered lunatic in this movie.
He is unhinged, and we're supposed to think it's funny.
Let's talk about the motorcycle gang, because this is fascinating to me.
They're a Nazi...
A neo-Nazi group.
I wouldn't even go neo-Nazi. They're straight up Nazi. They've got the banners, they've got the regalia, they've got...
Let's don't forget also, the next day, he meets two other guys.
From the same club.
One of which kind of looks a little bit like Khan's number 2. He's got the headband and everything.
Which prompted the greatest line read in the entire movie by Ricardo Montalban. I wrote it out for you exactly how he said it.
I saw that.
I shall avenge you.
I shall avenge you.
I shall avenge you. It took me 17 times to even know what the hell he was saying with closed captioning on when I first started watching that movie.
They buy Sandra Locke a beer, or send a beer over to her table, which Clint Eastwood then drinks, which I would have done. And they walk over and start showing him their Black Widow tattoos, because they're the Black Widows. And, there's this weird, awkward, uncomfortable, half insult kind of thing.
Right, it's like, hey, do you see this? An arm? This? A tattoo? He don't know what this means. You guys think you're way more important than you are.
Well...
And way tougher than you really are.
And he tells Orville, I'm going to go... He says, you pay the tab. I'm going to go outside and thank these guys for the beer. And he goes... This is actually kind of funny, because he goes outside and he's finishing his pie. Orville's finishing his pie, and you don't see what's happening. You just hear it.
Right, you just hear it, and you say, oh, this is good pecan pie.
And
now,
Sandra
here's the
Locke
thing.
is genuinely concerned about what's going on outside.
I know that it's 1978. But they had meals and pie and coffee. Do you know how much Orville puts down to pay the tab?
I think that was a
Two
tip.
$1 bills.
I think that might have been the tip.
I hope that was the tip.
I got the sense that was the tip, because I noticed that too. But But
it's not the only time it happens. Every other time they're laying money down to pay for something, it is a $1 bill.
Yeah. Because even if that is the tip, that's $2.
I mean, their whole check was probably $20, because back then you could get a full meal for multiple people for $20.
For 3 people, yeah.
But and that would be about 20%, but still,
I do like the fact that he knows Philo's fighting style so well that he knows when he's finished.
Yeah.
Because this is actually kind of funny. I like this scene because you don't see what's going on.
I
You
think what
just
might
hear it.
actually be my favorite line, and I forgot about it until just now, is when they're all back at the Nazi house, and the
Mhm.
one guy says, "I've never seen anybody punch so hard, so fast." He was like mystified, and the tone of his delivery actually made it almost funny.
Yeah. Well,
Um, but these guys
they're
are
all
played. They're played so far over the top that they would have been
this
killed in no man's land.
this motorcycle gang is so bizarre because they're like they're like the loser group. This is like they're like the third string. They're the ones that
These
other motorcycle gangs make fun of.
these people are more incompetent than the Nazis in Blues Brothers,
Yes.
and they're incompetent Nazis.
Their leader. We got to talk about this guy. Their leader, not Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah,
Because that's what he looks like. He looks like if Brendan Gleeson has a redneck American cousin. He's got the Nazi officer's cap. He's wearing a dainty scarf, and he has the Black Widow symbol tattooed on his stomach.
and it is a belly. He's got. I mean, he enters the room before he does. Like,
Now, the belly's the first thing you see.
yeah, yeah. That's. You know he's coming because that walks in the room about a minute and a half before he does.
Yeah.
Um,
Just try getting a shirt on this guy, you know?
yeah, it enters the room before he does. So, and he's all mad at him for being incompetent. The man looks.
By the way, I noticed I watched some of the bits from Any Which Way You Can with them last night.
Oh man.
Between this movie and the second one, the Black Widow spider tattoo on his stomach got smaller. But this guy,
That tracks. That's the level of continuity that I would come to expect from these.
but this guy is like he's wearing the Nazi cap in the thing, and he's got a riding crop.
Yeah.
And he's presiding over this bunch of idiots. By the way, I've got to ask you a question. Exactly how many people are in this motorcycle gang? Because it looks like there's
looked to be about 20.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like 8, sometimes it's like 20. They seem to be growing and then shrinking. And the joke is that they keep losing their bikes. Because every time
Yeah.
they encounter Eastwood, they lose bikes.
Right, when he beats them up, well, when he chases them, they abandon their bikes and jump on a
Right.
freight train. And I
Right.
think he takes those 2 bikes, and then the other 2 guys, he takes their bikes and he sells them.
Mhm.
And then he leaves to go after Sandra Locke. The motorcycle gang goes to Ma, Ruth
I
Gordon.
actually kind of like this scene.
Yeah. They're acting like assholes. They're tearing up her lawn. He drives his motorcycle straight up onto her porch, and she's like, "Get off my porch!" And he rips off a support beam from her porch. She pulls out this shotgun.
This god killer.
She takes what? And they're like, "Oh, put the gun down, put the gun down." Yeah, we were only harassing you and threatening to kill you for information. Don't
We're only
retaliate.
going to tear down your porch.
Right, don't retaliate against us.
She starts hitting the gas tanks.
She blows, and it's just blowing these things out, and like they're running away, and the leader, is he ever given a name?
Chala.
Chala. He's sitting like he's at a stop sign at the corner, like he ripped the thing off, he went around the block, and he's just sitting there waiting for him.
Yeah.
And he hears these explosions. He does not go back. He just shakes his head. Like, what are these idiots into now? She basically hands them their asses on a platter.
Which, by the way, when she's firing the shotgun, I love the look on her face because she apparently kind of loses control of it.
Yeah.
And by the way, she does not say, "Get off my property." Ruth Gordon says, that's how she says every line. It's just
every line is wailed and screeched out, and you know, part of me kind of wanted to see the Clyde and Ma show.
Yeah.
Like, I think that might have actually been entertaining if we'd have gotten to see them interact more.
Right.
Because it would have actually grounded Ruth Gordon in the same film as everybody else.
She is off in her own movie. I don't even know.
I don't know where she is.
There's a weird, unfunny subplot about her trying to get her driver's license.
Yeah.
Because she's failing at it because she won't admit that she wears glasses. And it's not funny. And the weird thing is, at the end of the movie, all of the plot threads are left hanging except this one.
Right, she gets her license from a man who has a smile identical to Clyde's.
Right.
Identical. You compare those two. You freeze frame on Clyde smiling, then you go to the end of the movie and freeze frame on him smiling. It's down to the tartar marks, like the black marks on the it is an identical denture piece to Clyde.
But of all the things that needed to be wrapped up, this isn't one of them. This is this is the subplot that ends the movie.
The screenwriter seems to think that because he got into a big fight at the end with the Black Widows, and Sandra Locke told him what it was, and those cops that are following him.
Oh God, the cops!
They took 2 weeks off of their medical leave to hunt down a man and kill him.
Right.
Because he punched them.
Right.
Off-duty police officers who started the fight.
He walked out because Sandra Locke left him. He walked out. He bumps into the guy. The guy says something. Philo says something back to him, and there's a barroom brawl. And he tells He
was like, call the police, and he goes, they are the police. He's like, uh-oh.
So he runs off. I think, and all they got to do to find out who he is and where he is ask the bartender.
Right.
Because apparently the bartender knows him.
Right. And then they do go to Ma, and this is after he's already took off after Sandra Locke. Lynn Taylor Halsey, which that announcer has a real hard time with the hyphenated name. Did you notice that right at the beginning when she's introduced, both times when she's getting on the stage and when she's leaving, he's like, and here's Lynn Taylor Halsey.
Well, that's Mel Tillis, and Mel Tillis had a stutter. That's why he says it that way. Yeah. He was famous for his...
That makes more sense then, because it just looked like he had a hard time understanding the concept. Understanding the concept of a hyphenated name. Like
he says Lynn Halsey. He says Lynn Halsey Taylor. That's because he has a stutter.
Okay.
But he this subplot with the cops is so meaningless and comes out of nowhere and drops into the movie about 2/3 of the way into it.
There's no reason for it. And then you find them, they're tracking him, they're taking time out, listening to the police scanner, shooting at bottles on the side of a road. Which I would assume is illegal.
if they wanted to find him, all they got to do is ask any bartender in town. That's all they have to do.
He lit out. He left. It's like at that point, just say, "Oh, we'll get him whenever he comes back."
We'll get him when he comes back in town. Yeah, but they got to have this whole scene where they are at one of those Campgrounds of America places, and he's out fishing. And I guess this is supposed to be a comic scene because he's out fishing. By the way, Clint Eastwood wears the same pants for the whole movie.
Right.
He's exercising and fishing up to his groin in these same pants.
Mm-hmm. How he gets runs in pants like that, I don't understand. Like,
how does he not come out without athlete's foot? I mean, something.
How does he not come out with the world's most chafiest crotch? I don't. Right. That's when you're running in jeans. That's just and wet jeans.
There's an awkward scene where the guy comes up behind him and is going to shoot him, but then
with a gun. He has a rifle.
And he says he has a rifle. He tells him he has a rifle.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh," but then this big fish comes up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, why don't you get in?" And then Eastwood recognizes him. Philo recognizes him,
and smacks him in the face with his fish.
Punches him, and then his partner, who is a black man. Mm-hmm. Is trailing him, and he's like, "Oh, these white people are crazy," and he falls over, and he's trying to get a good position to cover him, and there's a rattlesnake.
Mm-hmm.
The only black character seen in this movie that I can recall, certainly the only one with lines, says, "Feet don't fail me now." Like this was written in 1937.
There's a second black character, and that's the one he fights in the meatpacking plant.
Okay, but he doesn't really have any line. He's not a character. He's
well, there. Neither's this guy.
Well, they want him to be, and. Yeah. He literally says the thing that all they needed to do was have him go wide-eyed and look around and say feats instead of feet, and it would have been complete.
Right.
I was horrified by this.
Well, let's talk about Beverly Deangelo, because you said, and I don't remember this, but you said she's not in the second one.
She's not.
At all. She literally drops into this movie. This movie picks her up out of nowhere.
And you know what? I kind of liked her addition. She was a good buffer.
But Orville picks her up at this fruit stand. And she works at a fruit stand, and she's being harassed by a customer. He whispers something into the lady's ear. The lady screams and runs away.
Mm-hmm.
And then she does not ask him what did he tell her until much later.
Much later.
But they have like this flirtatious thing with melons.
Right.
And she gives up her life to go off with these two guys that she doesn't.
Right, she says, "Where are you heading?" And he goes, "East." He never says where. She's like, "All right."
She
I
gives
just live
up
down the
her
road.
life. Yeah.
I'll go with you.
Later on, much later on, she says, "What did you tell that woman to make her run off like that?" He says, "I told her you had to clap."
And then there's nothing. She kind of looks a little surprised. No one laughs.
It doesn't correct him on this.
In the middle, in the movie or outside of the movie.
Right.
And Well, I mean, not correcting him on it is she knows that it's just an outrageous thing. She's not going to say, "Well, I don't have the clap." They know she doesn't have the. Well, they presume she doesn't have the clap.
Well, you don't know because you just picked her up and just,
Yeah, and and how long is she in that truck? And they don't tell her about Clyde until they're stopped.
It's a day and a half. It's a day and a half. They meet and at least have sex at least once, and they don't tell her about him. And they're having dinner, and she goes back to the camper and she screams.
Well, no, she's looking for a place to go to the bathroom, and she sees Clyde, and she screams. She runs out. She pulls a gun.
But how are they with each other this long? She does not know about Clyde.
How is that even possible? Inconceivable.
This would be the second thing she would know about once she got in that truck.
One would assume there is literally no divulsion of any kind of personal information between these people.
Yeah.
At all. And so
what I don't get is, and I was kind of interested in this scene, is the scene where he says, we're getting low on funds, can you get a line on a fight? Mm-hmm. Well, here's my thing. They're out of town. They're headed for Denver. Where do you start?
See, that's what I was saying. I bet Orville knows where to go to find this stuff because he does it all the time, I would assume. So there's just, I guess, probably these places that he just finds it. If he goes to, like, union hangouts or things like that, probably just has to start saying, hey, anybody know anything about a good fight? You guys got any good fighters? Something. However he broaches the topic.
See, that's the movie I want to see. I want to know about this. I want to know about how does he network this. I want to know all of this stuff.
There are 90 movies in this thing, and none of them are the actual movie.
Yeah.
Most of them are
like ideas. I say, the only one that's tied up is Ruth Gordon's eye exam.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it kind of goes in a direction that the movie should go in, because he goes to a meat packing plant where he meets Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
And
he looked a little bit more like Carlos Santana to me, but yeah.
You think so? I thought he looked a little like Frank Zappa, but he meets a guy who gives him a line on this local fighter. Apparently, he's as good as Tank Murdoch. Because, by the way, this movie keeps building up Tank Murdoch, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, Tank Murdoch. They say Tank Murdoch about 9,000 times.
Right. Well, he meets this guy who's the local champion. He's this big black guy who's kind of doing a Muhammad Ali kind of thing. And he says he fights dirty. And I'm thinking, well, in all of these things you're going to fight dirty because there's no rules.
There's no rules, yeah.
But
that was the appeal to him, because he's, I never got into that stuff. I never got into professional. There's too many rules.
Yeah. Well, he, nowadays he could do not the MMA,
UFC.
but the
UFC.
Yeah. But that has rules.
Mm-hmm.
But he beats the crap out of this guy, and they're not going to pay him.
Yeah, they're like, do you want to tell all these guys that you're going to take their money? And then you hear this shot ring out, and you see it hit the one of the sides of beef, and then a second one right next to it. And I love it. She goes, the second one was just so you know the first one wasn't a mistake.
And this really comes to nothing.
Yeah, they hand them the money and then they leave.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. Again, it's a movie that's not really happening. It's a movie that's not.
Every scene resolves in exactly the way that you would think it would,
Yeah.
but with nothing else to it. It's like
Right.
you could. I'm pretty sure sitting there, you could probably guess the next line coming up if you've never seen it before. I do that all the time when I'm watching terrible stuff or if I'm watching old TV or something. They'll say one line and I will respond, and then the character will say exactly what I just said because I know what they're gonna say. I know how they wrote this.
My wife does that all the time. She'll say something and then the person on television will say it.
Yeah.
But you can pinpoint exactly how this is going to turn out. But the problem is this is then dropped and never really mentioned again.
No.
This does not come up. They're at the campground, the Camp America, whatever, and the campground. And he goes out to exercise, and who just happens to drive by?
Right.
But Sandra Locke. Just happens to drive by. And
she's going to pick him up because on her face she see oh, a man. She's got that, she's
straightening her hair. Yeah.
Right. The spinster chicken from Looney Tunes?
Yeah.
Is always trying to go after Foghorn. Yeah, exactly. That's how she appeared. And then she sees who it is as she tries to run away. But he sees who she is and gets her to stop.
Did I miss something, or did he chase down that truck? Did she stop, or did he chase her down?
Well, he was like, hey, Lynn, hey, it's me. Like, oh, maybe she didn't see me.
It would have been par for the course for this movie if he'd have just grabbed the bumper.
Yeah.
Because, again, untethered lunatic.
Yeah, yeah.
But she gives in, and they have sex in a weird sort of darkened room.
I have no idea.
Perfume ad.
Yeah, I don't.
And then she gets up, and he gives her more money.
Yeah.
And she's gone again.
Yeah, she's like, oh well, I'll meet you at this place tonight. I gotta go talk to him.
Surprise.
I'll take the money that I have and I'll leave him and come to you. And they sit there. Did you see how many Dos Equis they have on that table? I counted them the first time. I think there's somewhere around 12 or 15.
Oh my god.
There's a lot of beer that is consumed by these three people.
And they're not completely hammered.
Yeah, right. They're fine.
I want to think that they're taking some of them out to Clyde. I don't know.
But, this all ends up culminating with her saying, hey, dummy, this is what I do. We had our time. Now it's over. Go away.
I'm scamming you.
He's so thick. I mean, he does get hit in the head professionally. So,
yes.
He probably has some cognitive difficulties. But, I mean, it takes this long. She hits him, he finally leaves her. Only to then date her in the second movie.
Okay, now tell me how this comes up in the second movie, because the way
I think
that
she's
it
back
ends
at the
here,
Palomino.
She beats him up as much as Sandra Locke can beat him up. She beats him up in this weird Ken Russell kind of shot. And then she's gone from the movie, and he's broken-hearted movie over.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in the second one?
There are a couple
Okay.
throughout the whole thing.
Is he even
Like, I
mad
think
at
she...
her?
No. No. I think she gets a gig back at the Palomino. They make eyes at each other. They make up. And she said, I was in a bad place or whatever. And then they're just a couple for the whole rest of the movie. And Beverly Deangelo is nowhere to be found.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, this whole thing never happened, apparently. Like, there's no consequences for anything that happens.
I was in a bad place. He chased you around for 4 weeks and you scammed him twice.
Yeah. For thousands of dollars.
Yes.
That he really doesn't have.
He got beaten up for.
And then, so he finally, he leaves. He told Orville to go see if he could find Tank.
Yeah.
Which he does.
Which we hear about. Like I say, we hear about.
The guy's apparently... The guy's legendary.
Right.
And Philo makes genuinely short work of him. You can see how he gets all the other people that he beats, but he's a older man. He's pushing 60. He looks. He's overweight, out of shape.
Well, Orville mentions him early on. Sandra Locke mentions him early on. Mm-hmm. The motorcycle gang mentions him early on.
Well, and there's other parts of it where they're like, even in the meatpacking plant, I think, oh, he's like Tank. What's this? Tank what?
Tank Murdoch.
Tank Murdoch. He's like Tank Murdoch.
McCoy or whatever.
Yeah. Now, when we find Tank Murdoch, he looks like a fat Nick Nolte.
Yeah. He's a grappler. He doesn't seem to be a fighter. He seems to be more... The way he's moving around looks like he's more into wrestling than anything else.
Yeah.
But he does not look like we expect him to look. We're expecting a human brick wall. We're expecting Andre the Giant.
Right, and we get fat drunk Nick Nolte. Yeah.
Or current Nick Nolte.
Yeah. But still fat, but yes, basically current Nick Nolte, but fat. And so they fight. And he's making quick work of him.
I didn't get this. I've seen this movie several times. I still don't get this.
I got it right away. So they're fighting, and there's like a lull. They start booing Tank Murdoch because he is getting his ass handed to him easily. Like, this is not a fight for Philo.
This is his only opponent that he makes bleed. Actually makes bleed.
And so people are yelling, they're booing him, saying, "Your time's past, old man." And he hears people saying, "He's the new Tank Murdoch. Who is this guy?" "He's the guy that beat Tank Murdoch. He's the new Tank Murdoch." And he looks at Tank, this guy who's pushing 60 and is still in bare-knuckle boxing fights. Mm-hmm. Clearly living off of a reputation that he doesn't have to defend very often. Mm-hmm. And he sees him, and he looks at him, and in his face, this is the only time there is any measurable character development in the movie, which is why I guess you don't understand it, because it's so alien to this whole thing that you didn't really think it would be there.
And we've not seen this character up until this point.
Right, so you see the look on Philo's face, and you hear the people around him. He's the new Tank Murdoch. And he looks at him, and he makes this decision in his mind that if he wins this fight, people are going to consistently seek him out until he loses.
Right.
And he doesn't want that. So he throws the fight specifically so that he doesn't want to be the Ringo Kid.
Yeah.
So he throws the fight so that Tank Murdoch can continue being Tank Murdoch, and he's just the guy that did pretty well but still lost. His name is not thrown throughout the country as the best bare knuckle fighter in the country. He doesn't want that kind of notoriety. He just wants to be able to go, fight, make money, and leave.
But that might have been fine if the movie were ever actually about anything.
Well, if it was he doesn't want to keep doing this, if he like started saying that, and he just does it because they need the money, and he goes, this is my last fight, but he doesn't say that, and he continues to fight into the next one.
This idea was kind of handled better in the second one, because the relationship he has with William Smith in that movie is better handled than this.
Well, there's an actual story to the second one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically Rocky, but it's still
yeah.
It's still a story, and there's just
they resolve.
He winds up then fighting all of the Black Widows with
this scene
Orville getting into stealing a trash truck, a dumpster truck that he's like picking these
bikes up and putting them in. Because I got to ask you about this. He meets Sandra Locke again. They have sex, and they have sex, and then she's driving somewhere, and she meets up with the Black Widows.
Right, they find her, yeah.
It almost looked like she set him up. It almost looked like she set him up.
Maybe she did, because she was trying to get rid of him.
Because this is the last time we see her. And
yeah.
No, because that was right before the fight.
This is before, yeah.
They corner him in an alley and find the only mud puddle in the entire city.
Seriously.
Of Denver, Colorado. the largest and deepest mud puddle. And I would be willing to bet the only mud puddle in the entire city.
And he beats the piss out of them.
Yeah.
Again, fairly handily, largely because these guys think they're tough.
Yeah.
And
they're a motorcycle gang, and nobody carries a knife. Nobody carries a gun. They only carry chains.
Yeah. Look, this is the worst motorcycle gang ever.
The only thing that makes them a motorcycle gang, is the fact that they do in fact have motorcycles.
And they ride together.
Only thing.
And they all have some organizational structure. Like, that's it. They're not good at anything they do. So I don't understand how they somehow believe that they're a feared gang.
They are the bad news bears of motorcycle gangs. I mean, it's
yeah, but even the bad news bears won occasionally.
The bad news bears at least won something.
Yeah, I mean,
but Orville steals a garbage truck?
Yeah, like a dumpster thing.
He's really fascinated by this garbage truck, by the way.
And he goes up to the bike and he pulls it up and he dumps it in the back and then he brings it down. He gets the next one.
And they're getting their ass kicked.
And then they start chasing after him because of the bikes. And then Beverly Deangelo casually tries to run them over.
The pickup truck.
Twice. Hits several of them. Mm-hmm. Because she is apparently also an unhinged lunatic. Because
well, she learned.
Right, she's with two unhinged lunatics, so she just plays the part and goes along. And then we see at the end, now the cop thing resolved with him beating up both of them and running their truck into the lake.
Right.
So you see this truck on a tow truck,
Flatbed.
this muddy truck being towed. Well, it was a wrecker. It was like tow mater. It wasn't really a flatbed. You see them, and they pass the Philo, and they pass them, and they see him, and they're like, huh, oh, well, that's what happened. You got out, okay. And then they drive up.
They're all like in a Bugs Bunny cartoon where they've all got bandages and
right, and
like little Band-Aids and stuff.
You drive up further, you see like the smoke. You see this car with a whole bunch of people in it, with the front of a motorcycle on the back of it being dragged. And it's them. And he just passes them. And that's it. That's the way it ends. And they just drive off into nothing. Now, I want to tell you how the Black Widow thing resolves in the second one, because they do resolve it in the second one, right? They again are chasing him. They again get their asses handed to them all over the place. Because of this. Right.
And if I remember, there's more of them in the second one.
Yeah, and then at the end of the second one, Cho comes up they drive up to Philo, and he goes, well, I guess we've got a little unfinished business. What is it about that I owe you? About $40? He gives them $40, and he's like, all right, that's it, Philo, we're all done. And he's like, yeah, I guess we are. And they drive off.
Okay.
That's it. That is it.
So they don't get in a fight?
To end it? No. Because they bet on the fight with him and the other guy. And I guess they won some money, and for whatever reason, they owed him $40 for something that I don't remember in either movie. Yeah. And then they're like, well, yeah, now we're square. And he goes, yeah, I guess we are. So then they're done. The rivalry is over. The feud is done. And they're not going to come after him anymore. It's just over.
Wow. Again,
I mean,
hanging threads, man. Just like...
I mean, this thing peters out like a car running out of gas. It's just...
It does. Because they're laughing about something... The whole thing.
They're laughing about the misfortune of the people that attacked them, they did unhinged lunatic things to.
And then they drive off, and Eddie Rabbit's song plays, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. The movie just is over. It's over without.
The movie ends without ever really beginning.
But it ends with all of these loose threads just hanging. Clyde isn't even in the final scene.
No.
This is a movie that's just it is every which way but loose, because it's so loose. It's like it's not even really a movie.
No, it's
just a series of stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
But in a movie that is generally well made.
Yeah.
It's a better looking movie than it should be.
Yeah. I don't. It's.
This is fascinating.
It's really, really bad.
But you know what the good news is? You don't ever have to watch this again.
Yeah. Nope.
You never have to watch this movie again.
Or think about it. I can eliminate this from my mind completely.
And the sequel.
And I would do that if I had that capability. Unfortunately, I remember pretty much everything I've ever seen, so this is never going away.
Yeah, same here.
So, next week, next week.
He's finally landed. You
I
had some trouble landing on the second one.
I had trouble landing on the second one, and I still, this was actually just tossed off as something that I was going to do next year. I was rattling around. I'm like, I gotta do a Nick Cage movie. We haven't done one of those corny, over the top, horribly bad Nick Cage action movies yet.
See, that's the problem because of Leaving Las Vegas and adaptation. I have such respect for him that I do tend to focus on the good stuff. I tend to focus on the really, really, and I know how talented he is.
Oh yeah, I do too. But
so
the fact
I generally
that he takes all of these roles wherein he looks like a psychopath, and like I said to you, it looks like he gets paid by every mug to the camera and oddly punctuated word that he says because he does it so much. It's like he's getting paid for it. And I was like, I gotta find one of these. And I started watching Ghost Rider, and it just wasn't hitting.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna watch Bangkok Dangerous from 2008, and then I was like, oh wait, Snake Eyes from 1998. It's a Brian De Palma film, so there's levels of crap that are plunged. And then I said to you, I'm almost thinking next year to do Roadhouse, and you said, I've never seen Roadhouse. So next week we're doing Roadhouse.
I said, I've never seen Roadhouse. You should do Roadhouse this year.
And I'm like, okay, we're doing Roadhouse. How you have managed to avoid Roadhouse I admittedly did not see it until a couple years ago, but
look,
I wasn't alive when it was popular.
I have avoided Roadhouse.
I wasn't old enough to see it.
Largely for the same reason that you have avoided this movie.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, though. Being as well versed in riff tracks as you are, and this being such a classic riff tracks, this was one of the first ones. Mike did it by himself, and then they redid it with all three of them. I figured this was an old favorite of yours. So when you said, I've never seen it,
I just never got around to it.
I'm like, well, now we have to do that. Now you have to see it to believe it, because it's got a very Charles Bukowskian kind of philosophical attitude to a lot of things. One of the most famous ones is "Pain don't hurt." That's actually a line in this movie. So
I've never seen it.
We're doing Roadhouse.
I do remember Roger Ebert reviewing it, Siskel and Ebert reviewing it, and really seriously wanting to recommend it, but realizing that they have a reputation to maintain. I don't want to be the guy who actually recommended this. Yeah. But you could feel it when they were reviewing it. It's like, I so want to recommend this, but I can't.
It's one of those that you have to recommend only because it's so bad that people need to see it to believe it. Mm-hmm. And you will.
No. The movie you have to see to believe is the movie we're talking about after that.
Oh my God.
Because my second pick
is interminable.
Is insufferable at 90 minutes.
Oh.
I think it's 90 minutes. It is insufferable. This is we're talking about I can't even say it. We are talking about
Neil Diamond's 1980 film The Jazz Singer, which wasn't even good when they made it in 1927.
The Neil Diamond love letter. I mean, my God, this movie's in love with him. This movie is in love with everything he does.
I can't stand the way Neil Diamond sounds and the way he does his arrangements in music.
And then you get to see him act.
He has written a lot of really good songs. When he was writing songs for the Monkees, they were pretty good. When Johnny Cash covered Solitary Man, excellent. Because you know why? Because he didn't use any of Neil Diamond's phrasing, and he didn't use any of Neil Diamond's arrangement, and it made a good song. When Neil Diamond sings them, they're just so hollow and empty, and I am so happy that this didn't end on Come Dry Your Eyes, because that is one of the most annoying songs I have ever heard him do.
Let me tell you something. When Debbie Boone sang Sweet Caroline,
yeah,
it actually sounded better.
Yeah. People singing his songs make you think that he is make you think he has talent, and then you hear him do his own stuff. It's like, how do you do your own stuff wrong?
This is what Roger Ebert has to say about Neil Diamond's performance in that movie.
Was a
Diamond plays the whole movie looking at people's third shirt button, as if he can't be bothered to meet their eyes and relate with them. It's strange about Diamond's performance. It's not just that he can't act. It's that he sends out a creepy vibes. He's self-absorbed, closed off, grandiose, out of touch with his immediate surroundings. His fans apparently think Neil Diamond's songs celebrate worthy human qualities. I think they describe conditions suitable for treatment. That is how Roger Ebert ended his review of The Jazz Singer.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong.
No.
Because this movie is unbelievably bad. I mean,
I've watched. You sprung it on me. I watched it. One of the things that I was considering, kind of as a pre-retaliation, I almost said, "Hey, let's do A Star Is Born from '76 with Chris Christopherson and Barbra Streisand." But then I saw that it was 2 hours and 19 minutes, and I said, I can't sit through this. I can't do it. I don't want to. Can't do it.
I'm gonna say The Jazz Singer is worse.
It probably is.
It is.
But I had never seen either one. I have not seen the '76 A Star Is Born. I couldn't stand the most recent one. The story's just old. But other people, yourself included, liked it quite a bit. I wasn't a big fan. But yeah,
I liked Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
I really liked Lady Gaga. She was really good in it.
But yeah, it's just there are more reasons that I was avoiding The Jazz Singer than Every Which Way But Loose. Every Which Way But Loose I knew existed and didn't care about. The Jazz Singer starring Neil Diamond was always one of those white whales that I thought, this is going to be one of those trashy movie, like, emperors that I should watch just because of how bad I've read it is, but I don't want to watch it. Like, I don't want to sit there. And then you made me, and
I sat there the other night watching it again, and I was just like, I'm fascinated by it.
I don't think I'm going to watch that one a second time.
And then we're going to end with a movie we're not going to reveal just yet. Because there are five Mondays, 5 Turkey Month choices this time. We're not going to talk about the last one, but
no.
Yeah. So next week we got Roadhouse, and then we got The Jazz Singer.
Yeah. Yay.
So.
All right. Well,
yay.
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
You can find all of our back episodes at the Podbaydoors Podcast.wordpress.com. You can listen to us on iTunes and YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe, and the notifications. You can follow us on Twitter at pod_bay. Copy and paste that over onto Patreon, where we have several member exclusive, patron exclusive episodes up there. We encourage you to drop a dime and look at and then listen to. We would greatly appreciate all of that. We thank you so very much for joining us, and the pod bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.
You see, monkey do, makes me wonder who's fooling who. Laugh at them, they'll laugh at you. Monkey see, monkey do. Well, I read somewhere that a twist of fate made you different from me. We're branches on the same tree. Well, it's all too deep for me. Monkey see, monkey do, makes me wonder who's fooling who. Laugh at them and they'll laugh at you. Monkey see, monkey do. Da 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 da.